International Women's Day, the BDMA are proud to bring you a special podcast, Women in Property, Claims and Damage Management. Today, we're joined by an expert panel of leading voices from across the industry. We're excited to spotlight important issues, share experiences, and celebrate the impact women are making in our sector. A sincere thank you to everyone contributing to today's discussion and to those supporting this conversation across the industry. Let's get started by introducing our panel. We'll ask each of our speakers to share a little about who they are, the path they've taken into property claims or damage management, and what their career journey has looked like so far.
Hi everybody, I'm Nikki Short. I currently work for Jensen Hughes Forensics Investigation. I've been in the industry now for, I'm going to whisper this, over 35 years. Started as an administrative assistant when I was 15. I'd still got 2 weeks to do at school and then went back to do my exams. So I started at British Drying, which is now a Greco. So I learned all my moisture mechanics and how that fitted into the damage restoration industry. From there, went to Ark and General, which is then became ISS. So everywhere I've gone, it's always been brought up and gone into something bigger. So then I went to Munters, as it was then, which is now Polygon. And that was my longest stint in disaster restoration. My forte was organising teams, dispatching workforces out to fires, floods, claim surges. And I've just built up what's next throughout each of those roles that I've been involved in, really, until I got to a point where I was looking at profitability, productivity, how are we making money in one region and not another region. I remember when I worked at Munters that we started the McPlan, which was the start of fixed pricing within the industry. And we'll perhaps talk about that a little bit later on and what effect that actually has had on the industry and profitability and productivity. And then I took a little break around 2009, something like that, till 2012. And I worked for a male prison. And I also worked for a company that looked after emptying your bins and waste and recycling. So that was a bit of a change, thinking I'm done with the industry. I need to do something fresh. But it drags you back in. And then I went back to Balfour for 6 years and then did some consultancy work. And now I'm at Jensen Hughes. So 35 years, give or take about 4 in the middle, I've been hooked in.
So hello ladies, I'm Melissa Bridges. I'm the Managing Director of MA Group Property Claims. I started my journey in this industry in 2002 with MA Group, so MA Assist as it was back then. So I started out as a temp in their offices, working with Office Angels. I don't know who of you remember Office Angel, the temping agency. So that's how I started my journey as a temp. And my job was to answer the phone to contractors when I was fresh off the boat, because as you can probably hear, I'm also from South Africa. So fresh off the boat, really hard to understand the accents, especially from some of our Scottish colleagues, and explain to them that when their invoices were going to be paid. That was my job. So over the course of a number of years, I have done a lot of different things at MA Group. Obviously started out in the finance department, and you very quickly learn what you should have done on a claim when somebody won't pay you for what you did do on a claim. And that's how my journey into managing clients kind of started, from the age debt angle. So I then moved on into account management, and I did that for a very long time, until I'd kind of gone as far as I could in account management. And I was thinking, well, what's next? What do I do next? Because I'm getting bored now. I then moved into supply chain management. And honestly, that's really where I found my passion in things. I then started studying I'm currently doing my SIPS qualification, Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply, and I've got one exam left to go. One exam, and then I will be done and qualified. And then throughout that journey of supply chain management and understanding how that affects so much in business, I then got promoted to managing director of Revival, which was a brilliant step forward for me. I learned a lot about damage restoration from being an absolute newbie to it to knowing so much about it. And then very recently, another step forward into becoming managing director of MA Group Property Claims. So all in all, about 24 years in total now in this industry. Still learning, every day is a school day, still growing, still understanding what I could do better, how things work. But I've learned so much along the way, and I'm really passionate about bringing other people along for that journey and making sure that succession planning, especially where women are concerned, is a key priority for the business.
I'm Kaylee Owen. I've been in the industry for about 6 years now. So I started off basically just picking up the phone to sort of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, small claims. And then I shadowed our technical director when I was working at Ideal Response, and I moved up to project coordinator. So I went out with him to all of the sort of the major losses and the commercial claims and things like that. And that's where I really started to learn. So I learned the sort of the base level of things when I was picking up the phone, because obviously you have to have a base understanding of what's going on. But then actually going out to site and being on site and being with the teams and doing the back end of stuff as well. And then he stepped up again. So I took a step up to technical account manager. And then I took on the clients on my own, which was obviously quite scary at the time. Lots of mistakes were made, but that's how you learn the quickest. And then I recently moved from Ideal over to Seed Fire and Flood. I started at the beginning of the year, and I am a commercial contracts manager. So a similar sort of role to what I was doing previously, but working with sort of new clients and helping them sort of find their feet with the commercial side of things. They currently are well underway with all of the domestic claims, and they just haven't quite touched into the commercial side, but that will be my role. So I'm really excited to have started somewhere new and fresh faces, and I feel like I'm integrating really well with the team. So just looking forward to the rest of the year.
Hayley Elsden. My role has changed actually recently. I'm now the Director of Strategic Sales for Prism Claims Group. I didn't want to go into insurance. Insurance wanted me to go into it. So I started my career as a sports journalist, and that's what I trained as. And it was a very hard world when I sort of left school and went into journalism, very male dominated. And I struggled a little bit and decided to do something different. And what I did was I decided to pack up my house in Twickenham and move to Beverley because I'd seen it on Antiques Roadshow. And of course, in Beverley was at the time the largest disaster restoration company, Chemdry. And I started there really as a junior business development person. And I very quickly learned, because the training involved literally sending you out in the field with the technicians to see the policyholders who need you at the very point when they have something disastrous happen in their home. And that was where I started to really strongly be passionate about customer service and treating customers as individuals. So having been in disaster restoration specifically and insurance for 32 years, so just a shade under Nikki, I've moved through a couple of different companies, all with the same passion for what we do, from Chemdry through to Belfour, which involved not only disaster restoration, but there was some building restoration in there as well, MA Group, and now at Prism Claims Group. And for me, the biggest thing that you can give anybody is your time. So I have spent a lot of my career mentoring women and young people as much as I can. I'm currently mentoring two people, because you learn along the way all of the things, all of the business skills, interaction skills. And we're in a changing world at the moment. So making sure that you can assist young people in developing their and fine-tuning their business development skills as well. And like Melissa, I'm also studying a little bit left field, but I'm doing a degree in forensics. So I'm a year into that, juggling family, elderly parents, all of that, but absolutely loving my career, having joined Prism in August.
I am with Flood Re now, but my journey here has been a bit of a winding river, I guess. I was working in sort of administrative roles really after I'd finished university, and I was made redundant from a job as a PA to a contracts manager at a construction company. And so I found myself desperately in need of any job. And this role came up for an insurance company. I didn't really care about the industry. It was really more about the role. And it was credit controller, receptionist, office manager slash PA, sort of all rolled up. Everything that, the underwriters didn't want to do basically in the office. And so I found myself working in insurance, and it was never really intentional for me to stay there. I thought I'd do it for a bit and find something better, more interesting, and move on. And I never did. But what sort of is quite interesting, I guess, about my journey is that I survived about 5 or 6 acquisitions. So I ended up with about 15 years continuous service, whereby I ended up sort of working for 5 or 6 different companies really in that time, and they all come with their different strategic approaches and management teams. And so you sort of, you're looking around going, the man who hired me to do this job and the job itself is gone, and now I have to adapt to this new thing. I found myself kind of going through this journey through the sort of administrative role into a central operations role where I sort of did project management and transfers of books of business and process improvements, and then kind of found myself going back to finance, managing a credit control team, and then into a reporting role. And then I realized that I'd kind of survived one too many of those acquisitions, and I'd been kind of boxed into a corner where people didn't really understand what skills I had and weren't making the best use of them. And fortunately, I had a friend who put me in touch with the role that was here at Flood Re, and my role as market engagement manager is very much about relationship management and external facing communications, but a huge part of what I do is actually delivering an awful lot of education and raising awareness. And this role kind of makes the best use of the talents that I've got. And I've found myself now in a role where I realize this is this is the happiest I've ever been in work, doing something on sort of the front line, and we're really helping people. We're at the good end of insurance. We're not sort of lining shareholders' pockets with what we do. We're really helping people that get flooded, and that's sort of having that meaning is really important to me. And like we've sort of said previously, mentorship is something that's quite close to my heart as well. Flood Re partners with a social mobility charity, and we take in interns every summer to give these kids sort of the experience of working in office and open their eyes to the kind of variety of roles that can be available in the financial services industry. And I also mentor young people um, sort of on a yearly basis as well. And I'm still in touch with some of my earliest mentees, and it's great to see them develop and flourish so brilliantly.
My name is Lisa Cannings. The company is known as the Abbey Group, but it is actually known as Abbey Antiques, which is the official name. You could say I got into the business because it's a family business for over 8 generations since my great grandfather. But I couldn't think of anything worse than joining a family business. And the weirdest thing, after listening to all of you, my first job via Office Angels was working for a company called Fenchurch Lambert Brokers Insurance. So I started there as after doing 2 years administration at college. Went in working as a PA team manager, did not understand what they were doing, going back and forth to Lloyd's. I was just typing up all the notes, and as you do, did that for many years. Then I went and worked for a company called Cundalls, which were structural engineers. That's where I gained a lot of skills. I got sent on a personnel course, did night school, did marketing, did health and safety, all these different hats that I started to learn, all these different roles they didn't have, to a point where it got so much that I went off to Australia, did a bit of traveling, came back. They said you can choose one job if you like. And I said I'd rather be the PA still to Laurie, who I was working for, and I actually enjoyed personnel. So that was the two roles that I had there. And then after coming back from Australia, things changed. It just felt different. And I used to love the social life up London in the city, if you'll remember those days. Friday afternoons or even Thursday afternoons down the pub. And I used to come home many a night merry. And my mum and brother were at the kitchen table and they just said, we're going to have to close the family business. And I was like, I don't understand. We've been going for so long. What's wrong? And we used to export to France and America back then. So we used to make copies of antiques. So we would say, what wood, what colour, but don't. It was always made in Essex, so it wasn't 100 years old. So please don't buy from the Americans or French. But basically, I couldn't believe that was happening. So my boss was thinking about retiring. I couldn't think about working for anybody else. So I quit my job up London, joined the family business quite naively 25 years ago when September 11th happened. And I walked in here with the sawdust on the floor like it still is today, but we flipped it over. So instead of manufacturing furniture, which was 90% of the business, I said, well, why don't we restore furniture? And my first point of call was removals. I thought they must break things. Let's try that. Then we can restore their reputation as well as their furniture. And the rest is history, as they said, because that's where we then met this thing called, well, what is disaster recovery about? And then we got in with Munters. Revival was my first point of contact. Rainbow, Balfour, and as they say, it's still going strong, thankfully, to all of this that's happening. But yeah, so it's strange. And now I've got the ninth generation, hopefully my daughter, to train up at one day. We've got apprenticeship. Blaze has been here. She's done 3 years woodwork carpentry. That's where we need to bring some more ladies in the industry. And now I'm going out where there is water damage, or known as sewage, before not being told. So it's quite glamorous from the world of the city. That's me now.
Thank you everyone for joining us. And I don't suppose we could move to the first topic that I'm hoping for us to look at, which directly links to everything that not only Lisa but all of the other panelists have said today, which is about breaking barriers in a traditionally male-dominated industry. I've put together a few little questions, and maybe we could have a little discussion around these question topics. If there's something interesting that you would like to contribute, I would really love to hear it.
Even on my first few months in disaster restoration, when I was learning my trade as such, and I was shadowing a technician on site, what I actually struggled with from the beginning was the perception that you're female, you must be a secretary or an administration person. You couldn't possibly know anything technical. And, that was very early on. And I would say it has improved somewhat, although, how many technical managers do we see in the industry actually in the field at the moment? I'm not sure that that's improved dramatically, but the biggest barrier is actually perception on what I can do. Very early on, the perception that you're a woman, you fit into a certain mold, and that's where you should be. And I think also being a mum as well. So you've got to juggle so many things. Being a mum to young children, my children went into nursery at 3 months because I had to work at that stage. So I was running backwards and forwards to nursery, trying to keep the job going, trying to fight against all of the things, you're not good enough and you can't possibly do that. And I think where I am at my career stage now, I have seen a massive improvement. I feel really strong. I know what I can do. And I think some of the male members of teams now can also see what I can do. So I think the perceptions have changed, and I'm happy to say that I managed to break through in my own personal career.
I would totally agree with everything that Hayley's just said. I've had right from, as Hayley said, when I was 15, 16 and started work, I couldn't possibly know anything. So I understood that straight away, that was the perception of me. I was fresh from school. I couldn't possibly want to know anything. And I made myself go and learn, and I made myself go out there and understand. And then when I moved into restoration at 17, I physically went out at weekends and bank holidays and did that work with the teams. I've cleaned so many smoke damaged commercial properties, hanging off bits of scaffolding, obviously not hanging for all the health and safety people, and done night shifts. But even in my 30s and 40s, I'd physically done the job that I was managing teams to do and was still out with the teams physically doing it, particularly in claim surge when it's all hands on deck. Saturday night in Leamington Spa, cleaning sludge out of basements till 10 o'clock at night. But still, in my 40s, I was stood in front of training rooms full of BDMA technicians thinking, well, she's in a dress and she's got blonde hair. What could she possibly know? And people would say that to my face. What do you know about it? Well, here we go. Sit back and I'll tell you what I know about it. So I still get it now that because I'm a bubbly personality, I'm a face of a business, I know my stuff, I know people in the field, they still don't appreciate the graft, the hard work, the blisters, the soot under these nails. There's been black soot, and God knows what else.
Yeah. And I think actually, just to mention, I think Carlisle was a little bit of a game changer in that at that point, it really was all hands to the deck, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
we were sent out to Carlisle. And at that point, because of the devastation, it was suddenly, right, we need your help. And we were almost seen at that point on a level with the technicians because we
yeah,
were grafting, we were getting stuck in. But very quickly after Carlisle, it reverted back to, oh, there's a meeting, you can go along because you're good with people.
How do you think we can challenge these biases that are still in the industry, even after proving once and once again that we still know what we're doing and we can come to the table the same as anyone else?
I think it's about being confident about trusting yourself, confidence in yourself, and knowing that you deserve that seat at the table. You've done your time, you've done the hard work, you've done the graft, and going in there, to use a phrase, go in there like you own the place. I'm sure all the ladies on here have had a similar comment made to them when, older people, older male people in the industry turn around to you and they go, well, I've been doing this for 25 years.
yeah,
Well, Bob, so have I.
yeah.
And I've got the badges to prove it. You're not alone in that. So sometimes you have to make people a little bit uncomfortable for them to sit up and take notice of you.
If we move on to topic number 2, which is career progression and leadership pathways.
When I was a little girl, and I just remember my mum saying to me, I was doing the wages with the brown copper coins, and I was paying the money. She was telling me, and she said, "Do you know what, darling? One day this will be all yours, and you're going to do this for the rest of your life." And I just remember thinking, I do not want to put copper coins in a babe, and that's what stuck in my. That's why I didn't want to join the family business. There was that, and obviously seeing bits of struggle going on and things like that. So growing up, but I have so much to thank Abby for the staff for where we are and where we are now, what we are doing. I mean, our business is 80% insurance work, so it is predominantly and going out from fire to floods. We've got a lot of guys out there, so it is quite a male industry. It'll be great to see. Funny enough, we did have Lucy a couple of years ago. She went off and changed careers, but Blaze is here now. Laura, who works with me, is brilliant. She's my rock. She's got so much empathy for the policyholders and understanding. The only thing I can say about myself is initially I was out driving a lot. So at the beginning of the job, I was out doing a lot of the visits and the deliveries. And that was what I perceived, that people's go, and I've learned now I don't tell them if I'm doing the delivery. So, they go, oh, but you're a girl, and I'm in this great big truck lorry, and I was going, yes, and I'm here to collect your furniture with whoever's next with me, and it was that kind of perspective. But you just kind of roll with it, so you pick the right people for the job, whether that's male or female.
Those who are taking further learning, I don't suppose you want to share a little bit about that and what sort of motivated you to take that next step in your education, professional education?
So for me, I think it was always something I wanted to do, but it was about the timing being right. Um, So, having kids doesn't help because everybody knows how much time that takes up. So it was finding the right time where there was a balance to be had with my kids being old enough, with me having enough time during the working week to be able to do it, and also having a job that I could use my skills in. Um, and just going back to the point on the question, what were the key turning points that accelerated my career progression? For me, 100%, it was doing my studies, and having it change the way I think. Um, Not just, my supply chain qualification hasn't just affected the way I think about how we run our supply chains. It's affected the way I think about strategy, about people, about learning, about diversity. It's taken me to a whole different level. And in all honesty, being able to have that real corporate speak that sometimes gets a bit annoying, but being able to use it in the right context, I think for me, that's a lot of that is what made people sit up and take notice and go, oh, actually, she does know what she's talking about, or actually, she could hold a conversation in the right circles. And that gave me or earned me, I think, more respect from people and made things change.
So for me, very much like Melissa, my life changed in terms of my children growing up and leaving home, which gave me more time. But I have a real passion for learning. Every day I learn something from someone, be it my children, from the Amazon man that comes, literally, I am like a sponge. I love to learn. And forensics is something that I wished I'd gotten into when I was younger. Never mind the sports reporting and all of that. I'd have loved to got into forensics. And at this point in my life, I thought, just do it. Do it for you. It's for no one else but me to actually
Love
learn
that.
a new skill, something that I absolutely love. And I am a person that doesn't need a lot of sleep. So I do get more hours in the day than most, which is why I probably look tired all of the time. But I absolutely love learning. And this is something I've wanted to do for so long. My big regret is I didn't do it earlier on. But that's not to say at the end of it, when I do get my degree, because I'm really determined to get it, that I will continue studying because I think it really keeps you healthy mentally.
Yeah.
My fitness is taken care of. But just going back to like Melissa did, I want to go back to the point where it says, what was the key turning point that accelerated your career? It was actually down to one person that believed in me. And up until this point, I was a very, can you believe it, shy, not terribly confident person. And this one person at Belfour, the MD of Belfour, and Nikki will know who I'm talking about, actually believed in me and said, you can do this. And just said, off you go. We're going to make you director of sales. Off you go. You can do it. And he absolutely gave me so much confidence. He opened up so many doors that I didn't know I had within myself. So that was the key turning point. But I would encourage anybody, you're never too old to learn. Forget what age you are. If you want to learn something new, a new skill, just do it. Do it for you, not for anybody else. And if it then feeds into your career and is useful, brilliant. And if it doesn't, you're actually doing something for yourself. And, like the advert, you are worth it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Someone told me once, no learning is ever wasted, and that's something that's really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
Absolutely.
matter what it is. You like increasing your knowledge is always going to be valuable. I think for me, one of the key turning point was actually a moment of a pretty adversity, really. Um, I mentioned that I'd survived quite a few acquisitions, sort of in one form or another. I was actually part of a company where we had almost half of the business leave over a period of a couple of weeks to go and start up a new company. So sort of some of the senior management left, and then one by one, staff members would come in, hand in their resignation, and what that left was sort of half an office that were left behind, which meant that not only had the workload doubled, but we all had the feeling of like, why didn't they ask me to go and join them as well? So sort of being left out as well. And I think that probably hit a little bit harder for the underwriters. Um, but I did definitely feel a part of that. And I'd had enough at that point, and a big part of my role in credit control was working with spreadsheets, and I absolutely loved working with Excel. And I was sort of wondering, so what is the job where I just get to play around with spreadsheets all day? What is that job? And so I was looking at moving over into sort of a finance role, and I was ready for a change of scenery. I was in Leeds at the time, and I they sort of helicoptered in a new branch manager because our boss had gone, swanned off to sort of be part of this new exciting venture. And I sort of sat down with him. I was like, "This isn't great timing, and I'm really sorry, but I don't think I can stay here. This is the moment now. I've had enough. Like I need a change, and I'm looking at London. I want to change the scenery as well." And he said, "Look, we don't want to lose good people from the organisation. Let me speak to some of my colleagues in London and see if we can find a role for you." And he sent me down for an interview with the finance director to see if there was something sort of there. And actually, what came out of that meeting was he identified that I was extremely operational. I'd been in administrative kind of role. I had no idea what an operations manager was or what that sort of team did. And it turned out it was actually really, really good fit for my practicality and my planning and my organization skills. So I moved down to London and became part of a central operations team, and that was really a really key point of turning the corner in my career, and where I sort of really started to identify what my skills were and how I could apply them in a business environment.
Do you
And
still love spreadsheets, Emma?
I
Do
do.
they still rule your life?
Do you know what? I'm a bit gutted that AI. I always used to be, I used to joke that like, when they made pivot tables easy, I was like gutted because there was this like secret language that I could speak and nobody else could. And now AI's come in and made it all so much more accessible. I think I still have some skills, and Excel is like another language. It is that kind of thing. If you learn a language and you practice it frequently, you keep up with it, and I do, but I've run some lunch and learns on Excel a few times, and I think one of the things that I always forget is that you don't know what you know. I often think a lot of what I hold in my head is common knowledge to everybody, and actually it's not. We all
No.
have real specialist knowledge that is absolute gold dust to a lot of other people, and we have skills and experience that are valuable and are worth sharing, and it's easy to forget that you are unique, that you have that knowledge and that to offer people.
I got annoyed with AI last week. Somebody was using Copilot, got all of this document out of nowhere, and I thought, but where's the brain? Where's the effort? Why don't you know this stuff already? Why is AI writing all of this information for you? That's not fair. I've had to put 35 years in to know that.
Just going to say, like that sort of that turning point where I was sort of sent down to London and put in front of the finance director. It's one of those. I think you mentioned it earlier. Having somebody in your corner that's going to champion you and go, look, you can do it. I recognize this thing in you, and I'm going to put my like flag in the ground here and go, look, this is someone who can do a job and back you essentially, not just to you, but to the outward world as well. I think it's really, really difficult to advocate for yourself. And
Yeah.
like I think, we all probably have suffered from imposter syndrome at one point or another, if not on a daily basis. But I think having somebody else tell you, yes, you can do it, but more importantly, telling other people, like, listen to her, she's got a voice. I was working alongside my boss, and he was a bit uncomfortable with it, but the managing director at the time was like, Emma's got these skills that we don't have, and we need her on this project team. And he sort of really championed me in that role. And having somebody in your corner like that can be transformational, I think, when you're looking at progressing your career.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be great to be that person to someone else?
Yeah,
You make the difference in their life and you make their career, and they're on a call in 10 years' time saying, Emma made the difference to my career. She was the
yeah,
turning point.
yeah,
Wouldn't that be great?
I think the hook was really going onto site and seeing it all happen firsthand, which obviously it's always devastation. So it's not a nice thing to see, but it's just nice to see how we can as an industry, put it back together. And it's always, everything needs to be done yesterday. And it's that added pressure. And although it's really stressful, I just feel like I thrive under the stress rather than like the sort of mundane day to day. I think every day for us is different. And you never know, obviously, what you're going to get or what you're going to see, or and even some of the behind the scenes things. Like I've gone into prisons. I never would have done that if I wouldn't have been in this role. Um, so yeah, I think that was a turning point. I don't think I'd still be in the industry if it wasn't for that.
I wonder if we might move on to question 2. I know you might have covered some of the topics already.
Learning your skills and also learning relationships with people. Every person's different. The way you react to them is very different. But I think a great skill is listening and not jumping in immediately with views and listening rather than just jumping in.
Resilience is quite an important one, I think, and I think that's true of everyone anyway. I think modern living has become a lot harder now. We're all trying to do more with fewer resources and fewer people. And, I think the last sort of 5 years or so has really changed how we live our lives in COVID and ways of working, and some things are better, and but a lot of things have just become a lot harder, I think. And so resiliency is really, really key. And you just got to keep going, and it's not that easy all the time, but building up that kind of that ability to keep going is definitely beneficial.
So, building that trust and empathy that comes more naturally to women, I think is a really good skill to have in a leadership role in this industry.
I think everybody on here needs to remind themselves that they
Yes.
are, without trying to swear, bloody brilliant, amazing, not just in your job, but in your family life, in your everything you do. Like you're awesome. So just remember that if you haven't got nobody backing you, you've got us. So 100%.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Lisa. That's
Thank
brilliant.
you, Lisa. I feel like when people feel like they're making progress, you just get a completely different outcome from them, from the level of work to their satisfaction. And it just makes me feel really happy when you see someone who genuinely is, they've gone through the training and they're really thriving in their job and they're looking to what's next and they've got ambitions. And I think, as we're all saying, we can all do so much to foster that.
I think in terms of feeling stuck and moving forward, I think that point where I sat down with my then brand new branch manager and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want something different, but I don't know what it is. And just almost asking for help, saying like, these are the things I'm good at. What does that translate to in terms of a role, in terms of a job? And even he didn't have the answer. He went, but let's bring somebody else in to help solve the problem. Let me put you in front of this director and that director, and let's get all these people involved to try and help forge a direction for you. I think just putting your hand up and going, can you help me? And like I probably would have expected him to say, like, okay, I'll take your notice, all the best for the future, and then like be on my way. But most companies will always want to retain talent, even if they can't keep that person in the team that they're in.
Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Just because something feels awkward or difficult doesn't mean you won't be good at it. Give it a go. And if it doesn't work out, there's nothing stopping you going back where you came from, but you might just find something that you really love and really excites you.
I'm proof of that because I've always been in operations, always been pushing businesses forward, teams forward, improvement. And then I got this opportunity to go into sales. And I absolutely said, no way, not for me whatsoever. I am not a salesperson. What do I know about it? Because I'd got this perception of what that might be. And I remember even talking to Hayley about it and saying, I can't do that. I can't walk into a room of people I don't know and just start suddenly selling a company and what they do. And that I don't know anything about it, never had any training, don't know any buzzwords or any particular way you've got to do it. And every person said to me exactly what you've just said, Melissa. Why don't you give it a go? You might find you're good at it. And if you're not, go back to what you were doing before. And I was petrified. Someone like me that's always got something to say, I was petrified.
And look at you
Never,
now.
never look back. I love it. And I try really hard to, we all need an opportunity. We all need a helping hand. I think I've said it to you, Melissa. I know I've said it to Hayley and people that Hayley have worked with, and said, you're all fabulous at what you do, but it's just talking to the right person sometimes. It's just building that correct relationship with the right person sometimes that can make all the difference. So I always say to everybody in my phone book, everybody on LinkedIn, when I see that they've had a change of position or business or career change, let me know if there's anybody that I can introduce you to, because that could be a game changer for somebody, just talking to the right person. So we all have created our own opportunities, but by supporting each other. And I'm all for that. But if I hadn't have listened to the people that said, you can do it, give it a go, I'd have never have done it. I was too scared to do it.
Topic number 3, if we're all right to move on, is about mental health and burnout. What can we do to make the workplace more comfortable and more open with these mental health challenges? I don't know if there's anyone who wants to jump in and make a start.
The culture of the business, the whole culture of a business has to change, and that's top down. So having things like flexible working hours, not just for women, but for men as well. This isn't, you have fathers as well as mothers, but the whole culture of a business has to change. And it's not a tick box exercise. Yeah, we've got that in place, we've got that policy. Everybody has to believe in it. Everybody at someone in their life will need a little bit of assistance. And it's at that very moment that as employees, as friends, we need to come together and support that person. And that must be within a business as well as outside of business.
So Laura has a passion for mental health wellness and has been out of her appraisals the last couple of years talking about wanting to take on to be the mental health first aider. We're only a team of 12 guys and girls here. So I feel like we're all quite a small family anyway. So we kind of talk every morning, how's things, and know what's happening and everything else. But you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You never know what kind of morning that person's had. Something could just trigger them and everything else. So Laurie's looking into it at the moment, but it is also something that I worry about, because I also think like I don't want her taking on too much from everybody else as well. So it's just obviously worrying about that side of it. But I think it's important for everybody in the workplace to have that go-to person.
But I think having that empathy and that understanding when you're talking to somebody is absolutely crucial. You have to be able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes to be able to have a sort of a bilateral conversation and really effectively communicate with them. And that's not just about going to visit people who've just been flooded or just had a sort of a crisis, but that's, everyday sort of conversations as well. You go into the office and it's really easy to sort of, be annoyed or make an impression or judgment on somebody. You don't know what kind of morning they've had, or, what might have happened last night or what they might be going through. And so just trying to channel a little bit of empathy day to day with all of your interactions is hugely crucial, because it's really easy to sort of think that we understand, what's going on with somebody, or go, they're really loud, that's really annoying, or, that they might be being loud for a particular reason that might not be what they are every day. So just taking the time to try and channel a bit of empathy and understanding is, I think, really, really important when you have communication of any kind of on any level.
I think since COVID as well, it's had such a shift. I remember every day going into an office, you'd always have your friends in the office, you'd have a chat at lunchtime, you'd have a chat when you go to the kettle or the water cooler. You could kind of, if you had that really awful customer that's been moaning at you on the phone and you're really annoyed, and then you walk into a meeting and then somebody else has really annoyed you, you could just wander off, go and make a cup of tea, somebody's there, it's gone, it's left you. But now we work from home, and especially in the role that I do, I'm at home, that builds up. So I could have a really bad conversation at 9:15 that hasn't gone well. That sits with me. Who am I going to tell? I haven't got anyone to tell. Don't want to start ringing my colleagues. A, I haven't got time. They don't want to hear my nonsense. And you just get on with it. But by sort of Thursday afternoon, if you've had a series of bad days, that weighs on you and you've got nowhere for it to go. And burnout, you're up at all hours, travelling to meetings, doing the meetings, prep for the meetings, coming back. Sometimes it's 15, 16 hours I'm out of the house. And then you're up again the next day. So you come into a dark, empty house, you've got no food, you've got to get yourself ready for next day's work. When do you let any of this go? So I think it's great that we've got first aiders and we've got all sorts of things as tools to help now. But are our seniors doing enough in the first place to make sure you're not getting to that burnout? Are you taking care of yourself that you're not doing a 16-hour day to then go and do a 14-hour day tomorrow? That's a little disconnect for me. We've kind of got lots of tools to help us here, but if we just manage this little bit in the middle, are they okay? Check in, just to chat, 10 minutes. Check that you're okay. What have you got on in your diary this week? How did last week go, by the way? That I think that would help a lot of people that maybe work from home more now, don't have that daily interaction. And I'm a people person, but I'm not going to go into a meeting that I've been preparing 6 months for to get in front of somebody to then go, never guess what's happened to me this week. You just don't do that. And you put this front on because you're the face of the business and it chips away. You've got to be careful. You've got to take a bit of responsibility yourself. I appreciate that. And I'm the world's worst for if someone says, everything okay? Oh, God, absolutely. Brilliant. Guess what I did this week? When actually sometimes I'm not, but I've got no outlet to sort of say that and take that burden off before the next week starts again.
Sorry, I was
Sorry.
just going to say, don't you think sometimes if you are having a really bad day, um, don't you think that it's perceived as a weakness if you
Yes.
say, I'm
Yeah,
really
that's what I
upset
don't say.
today,
Yeah.
someone has reached their limit, and it may be one
Yeah.
week. You're having a
Yeah.
really bad week that pushes you over the edge, and the next you're okay again. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean, like you've said, Nikki, that you're outside actually says what's going on inside, because inside you might be really low and
Yeah.
desperate.
Yeah.
One of the
It's,
things that we as leaders need to be better about is showing some of our vulnerabilities ourselves. It's okay to not be okay all the time. And I really try hard with my teams to show them that sometimes I'm not okay. And it's okay to admit that I'm not okay and I might be having a crappy day. So I need you to help me a little bit because
yeah.
tomorrow you're not going to be having the best day and I'll step in and I'll help you because we're a team and that's how it works. We pick up the slack for each other. So when you say how can we create safe environments, I think a big part of that is showing that not everybody has to be okay all the time
Yeah.
and not to take something out on somebody or perceive or say, oh, they're a bit emotional today. Because no, they're just having a bad day. Let them have their bad day because tomorrow it's going to be your turn to have a
Yeah.
bad day.
I love
This,
that, Melissa. I think that's you've hit the nail on the head and everything else. I think I've cried more times on my desk than Laura. Laura's very strong, as I think she's like you, Haley, where she'll go, no, I'm not going to cry because that'll make me look weak and everything else. But it's not. It just gets to that breaking point, and you know something's gone wrong, snapped, put too much pressure. So, but I could cry over anything. And then you've got, the cabinet makers will come in and they look and they go, oh, are you all right? Like the boy, like the men don't know what to do. I'm going, I'm fine. I just need a moment, and then it's weird how they just, but I'm very open with my emotions. I can't hide them. So it is what it is. And I don't think it's at all a weakness of mine. I think it just shows I'm human and I've got a lot on my plate, and I can't breathe at the moment. There's too much coming at me, and I want to get everything right and so forth. Where Laura's very strong, holds it in, but I'd kind of say, no, you just got to let it out, sort of thing. He's got, just then gets to even more angry with herself for doing it. So she was nodding away when you were talking then.
But going back to in the field, I worry, and I wrote an article for the magazine about it. When the guys are going out, particularly in claim surge, when it's next job after another, next job after another, they're out 6 a.m. in the morning, they're not getting back soaking wet and freezing cold till 10 o'clock at night because they're trying to get all those jobs done. They're also alone in their van. That bothers me as well, that sometimes they've seen things that they don't really want to see, or they've had very emotional policy holders to deal with, and they've sort of taken a bit of that burden on, and then they're driving for hours all alone in that van, and that bothers me a lot as well. Is there support for them? Who are they going to go and talk to at the end of their day? We should, I think, really think about something for the damage management industry, for what people take on and what people see and deal with.
I think we've said it already, but some flexibility is really, really important. I know that when we have really busy weeks as a team, if we're out and about doing events and exhibitions, and I think we're probably all quite used to keeping sort of non-standard hours. I know that my manager will always say, like, who's finished late this week, or has done some work through or done some overtime. Like, make sure you clock off at 3 o'clock today. Take the 2 hour lunch break to go and do a yoga class. Finish early and go and do some wellness. Like, take some time back and look after yourself. And that kind of environment where you can almost like self-administer your hours and do that flexibly to balance the work with being well is really, really key, and I think really makes a big difference in terms of processing kind of what you experience through your work and balancing your home life as well.
I mean, I'm fitness mad, and I always encourage people, if you've got a lunch hour, take it, go for a walk, go and get a cup of coffee, just walk away from your desk and just do something else, get out of the environment. And when your Fitbit's telling you that you haven't moved all day, that's a really bad sign, because you are sat in front of a screen or driving somewhere, and you just really need to be kind to yourself and get yourself out there. Fitness, anything, just even a walk. It makes so
This is
much
it.
difference.
You can't give your best to your employer and to your team around you if you're just depleting, and then you're off sick. That it's just so counterproductive. But we need to make sure that the employers around us and the industry are saying that that's okay, encouraging it, sort of reinforcing that you need to look after yourself. Don't wait for someone to say, if you had a break today, you think to yourself, I need to just go and get a cup of tea, go and have a think about that before I send that email back. I'll just have a breather.
If we could do one thing to improve diversity, inclusion, and promote culture change, what would it be? Have a little think about that for a second, and then anyone who's willing to go first, anyone who's ready to go first, give us a shout and we'll work around the panel from there.
I am so tired of year after year after year, every conference, every expo that I've been to, it's how do we get the next generation in? No one's doing anything. How are we going to get the next generation in? When people are school leavers, they don't go to the careers office anymore and say, I know I need a career in the insurance industry. Damage management's for me. Who knows about that? We've all fell into this. I didn't find a job that said insurance industry and damage management. I found a job that said office junior. Perfect. Let's start there and see what happens. And it's opportunity that's taken all of us to where we've gotten to. So how are we promoting what this industry is? What types of jobs are available? Most people don't even know what a loss adjuster is until they need one, sadly. What are we doing as an industry to invite fresh new talent? All the job roles that I see must have insurance background of 10 years or more. Why? We've all said transferable skills, and we will help people. Mentorship helps people understand the nuts and bolts of what the industry is. You can learn that, but you can't learn tenacity. You can't learn resilience. You can't. You can't. If it's in you to do a good job, it's in you. It doesn't matter whether you're a mechanic or you're a painter or decorator. What we're looking for is passion and that empathy for understanding when people have got a claim. It's certain skills that we're looking for. Just because somebody's been in insurance for 20 years doesn't necessarily make them a good manager or a good mentor or the perfect fit for your organisation. So should we do more when we have exhibitions or conferences and have sort of a bit of a careers corner, something like that? Well, what do you do in insurance? Oh, well, that sounds really good. I've been operational, I've been in sales. We could, if you think of the knowledge that we have between us all, if you stood us for an hour in a careers corner at the next BDMA meeting, for example, we could probably impart some really good, valuable information that would make somebody perhaps have a little career change, a career swap. But how do we get them through the door as fresh new talent in the first place? And we're not addressing that.
I agree. And I think, real transformation takes time, doesn't it? And in my career, I've seen more and more women move into senior leadership roles, and we're testament to that today. What I haven't seen is women going into more technical roles, so being in the field. And throughout my career, there's been a bit of a text box, tick box of we need more women. We need to get the women out in the field. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put them through. But there's no encouragement. There's no career path. And, I think we need to do more of that, encouraging women. You can be technical. You are technical. Look at the training at the BDMA and the amount of females that go through that. And ultimately, they end up in leadership roles or loss adjuster roles, but barely any are actual technicians in the field. And we've already said about all the secret powers we've got, with our soft skills and our brains and our technical skills. We can do it. We understand. But what is blocking ladies going into being into technical roles?
Yeah.
Kaylee,
Agreed.
coming to you from obviously it's Seed. I mean, I'm not trying to single you out, but obviously you're on that role. Was there any when you was at Ideal? Was you the only lady, or was there others?
The other females we had a female technician,
Right. Because
just the one.
I'm just saying, all the times whenever I've gone to site, I haven't seen one. Like you say,
Yeah,
it's all
literally
males.
one.
Or all
Yeah.
the posts that you see on LinkedIn, it's a male technician promoting it. And I just think it's credit to see that they've got you. And, it's amazing that to see that. But it'd be brilliant to see more women on site and just have that, for the policyholder to see it as well. Like, oh, me driving, it's just, it's a whoever's best for the job.
I think as well when you're on site, when you're sort of delivering the job and it's all men, it's all male technicians, generally for me as well, they're older than me. So it's quite daunting. Like not now, but especially at first, it was like I'm telling all of the men what they need to do, and it's that like fight back. So I mean, to have more women on the field, it would just give you that sort of like, not saying that we need it because we're fine either way, but it would nice to have that sort of like safety net in the sense of like you're working with other women rather than it just being men, because it is a really heavily dominated industry, which is quite daunting at times, even when you're meeting with clients. And I mean, I've met with a few female loss adjusters, but generally like the client facing side of things is usually like men, and then all the technicians are men, and then it's delivery managers and it is very, very, very heavily male dominated. So how do we increase females in the industry? I don't know, but
You've got all of the skills, the knowledge, you know what you're doing, but then you've got the added pressure of you've got to make decisions about a job potentially, but then you've got the added pressure of how your perception is with your your fellow technicians on site and your peers, etc. So it's just more pressure upon pressure, isn't it? I think it just makes it a lot harder to believe that you're doing a good job because you've got all
Yeah.
of this outside noise and pressure, haven't you?
It's the second guessing, and it's the when you've given someone an instruction and then they go around you and they call, you know, one
Yeah.
of your male colleagues to then say, well, so, you know, she's told me to do this, but actually, the amount of times that's happened,
Yeah.
and
It used to happen to me.
the answer has always been, you know, whatever Kaylee has said, just get on with it, and then they're fine to continue. But the amount of times that's happened, and they need a male to then reiterate what I've already said,
Yeah.
it's a
That scenario that Kaylee's just described is what used to happen to me when I was in my early 20s, happened to me in my 30s, 40s, and it's still happening now. And it's still happening now in this day and age, Kaylee.
Is it that things are shifting in different places? Because I think maybe for us that operate more in a boardroom environment, people listen more. But for those that operate more on a site environment like Kaylee, that's still where we were 20 years ago,
Yeah.
where it needs to be confirmed by the man in charge.
Yeah.
So Blaze, who works for us, who's a cabinet maker trainee, she did 3 years apprenticeship, but she only joined us last year trying to find apprenticeship. It took her mum to phone me up and asked me about the job. She said she's applied for many jobs. She turns up. I just want to let you know that please don't judge a book by its cover. I've noticed that on your website you've got ladies working at Abbey, but when you see her, you'll realise why she's been turned down by so many other jobs in this industry. And I found that really shocking. So she walked in. She's got long hair. She's got nails. She's makeup's immaculate. And she's tiny and little, but she can do the job. So that was all it took. I just thought if you've got the passion, you can do the job. But she was so emotional when I offered it because she said the amount of time she's walked into the job and they just said, "What would you not be better suited somewhere else, like beauticians?" And looking at her and just judging her and everything else. But she's out there, but she's one of the youngest and working with a male industry out there and telling them what to do, which is great. So, of taking on instructions and learning and keen to learn from them, and that's what you need. It's just a male theme. I found that really. The fact it took her mum to phone because she's been so knocked back by so many times, walked in and just said, "No, we haven't got a job for you. You won't be able to lift anything."
But if we're still all saying this, we have to try and make a change because how are we going to get more ladies involved? It is improved. It's not as bad as it was because it's not allowed to be. But we have to do something. We could lead the way some way, I don't know. But we have to do something to break the stigma that you're not coming into a male industry. You're coming into the insurance world. There's a place for everybody. It's just how do we do that?
I love the women's award this year. I don't know if anyone else went to it, the international awards. It just felt so empowered and seeing all those women, 400 in a room, all in insurance. It was just from a range of different
Yeah,
services. It was
I
brilliant,
champion
and
that.
that's what we need to drum on more about, trying to get people knowing about it and think, oh, what's this involved in and everything
Yeah,
else. But I liked your idea about I don't see how that would happen, but an expo or BDMA promoting about the different jobs and careers in maybe do a webinar with different, not so much, but different, more the technical hands-on
yeah,
roles and so forth.
We as a
yeah,
business have become much more involved with our local council in the last year, and we're actually taking part in the skills show happening next week, I think it is. So we're going to go, we're going to have an exhibition stand, we're going to talk about everything that our business involves, from being a claim handler to a manager to a technician, and we're going to give the young people, because it is aimed at young people in colleges, a chance to see what it actually means to work in insurance. And it doesn't mean you have to sit behind a desk. It means you can be in any part of this operation. So maybe that's part of how you do it
yeah,
is,
brilliant.
we've said it needs to be focused on the young people, And I'm sure there's a million different ways to do it, but then let's target it at the younger people so that women in coming through in 20 years' time aren't sitting here having the same conversations we're having today.
Yeah.
Definitely. And interestingly enough, the BDMA are actually doing their first school outreach program next month in partnership with Flood Re, and we're going into year 7s, year 8s and year 9s, and we've got 3 days of workshops, and in those workshops we're talking to them about careers in insurance, careers in restoration, and all these different really exciting topics that I don't think they've ever been talked about before. And I think positioning that damage management and claims management career as a STEM career, as a highly skilled career, as something where you there's all these different progression routes, you can do all these different jobs. I absolutely agree with what people are saying about we need to talk to the younger generations. We need to make damage management and claims management more open and more inclusive, because right now you say, oh yeah, damage management, and people go, oh, what's that? Like they've never heard of it before. And I think that's possibly the first barrier to get people into the industry, is actually letting people know what the industry is.
I think no, I think this has been a really, really good session. I think, in terms of improving diversity, and inclusivity and promoting cultural change, and we don't have time to open the lid on this one, but I think neurodivergence is a really key part of it as well. I think
Yeah.
at the moment it's not that more people are being diagnosed with neurodivergences, and it's not because it's more prevalent, it's just because we have better tools to identify it now. And I think that we really need to sort of pay attention to this as a reality. But these different neurological kind of approaches to things mean that we have this really wide remit of being able to solve problems. We've got people who think differently, who approach problems differently, and who communicate differently. And all of a sudden we don't fit in a box like we used to fit in a box. And just like, women can lift things and be in charge, it's we also do have different kind of neurotypes. And I think, this is a part of the around that we have to take this to go forward and create this sort of inclusive world for different neurotypes, as well as women, as we've been talking about. So it's there's sort of we have come a really long way. We've definitely seen improvement, but there's work still to do. And
Yeah.
I feel privileged to be part of that change, and hopefully we can sort of see a real shift as we move through this decade.
Thank you very much, Emma. I really appreciate everyone's insights, and I just wanted to end by saying thank you all so much for your participation this morning. And I feel like we've really covered such a range of topics, and we've had some really important discussion points brought up. And as some of it, in my heart, I feel like I'd love to continue this conversation, and anyone from this panel who is interested in continuing this conversation and what we can do to help, not just women in our industry, but everyone. I'd love you to get involved, and I'd love to do a project with you all, because you're all fantastic, inspiring women. And it's really been interesting. So thank you so much to all our panelists, and I really hope that we can speak again in the future on matters such as these. Thank you so much, guys. It's been great.